Tell me your name.
Alton J. Moultrie.
And when were you born?
November 27th, 1943.
And where were you born?
Albany, Georgia.
And who were your parents?
Robert and Ardemira Moultrie.
Were they originally from Albany?
No, my father is from Albany, but my mother is from Mitchell County.
Okay. How many siblings did you have?
There were 6 boys and 3 girls.
Okay. And did you actually live in the city limits?
I lived in the city limits.
Okay.
524 Holloway Street.
And what did your parents do for a living? Let's start with your dad.
My daddy worked for his father with his brothers and his cousins for, well, I guess about the first 12, 15 years of my life. My grandfather was a carpenter and a painter and a glazer. And he basically did painting, and he had his sons and his cousins working for him. And then after that, my father went to work for H&W Glass Company because my father was a glazer. You know, that is basically cutting glass and doing things with glass, putting automobile windshields in and stuff like that.
Okay, and what about your mom?
My mom didn't work for a large part of my life. My mom didn't start to working until I was basically in high school, and she was a dental assistant to Dr. Cheevers, J.P. Cheevers.
Okay. Now.
And she wrote insurance before that. I forgot about that. She worked for Guarantee Life Insurance Company and Atlanta Life Insurance Company.
Okay. Now, moving forward, what is the first thing you remember about growing up in Albany as a child?
First thing I remember about
some of your memories.
Oh, man, growing up in Albany as a child, as a black child especially, was in my estimation a very, very fortunate set of circumstances, especially for a black person, because the black community was self-contained, and the people were very close. It was close-knit. Our neighborhood, and then you see my father being from Albany, and my mother having gone to high school in Albany for 1 year. The people that were there, they were my mother and father's friends, and the children were our friends, and we all grew up in a very close-knit kind of community like that. And my grandmother and granddaddy lived over on Cherry Street, and my father had younger brothers and sisters. See, some of my uncles were my age and my older brother's age, and so we had basically kind of a real good set of circumstances growing up as black children.
So it was the village raising the children.
I
said it was the village raising the children.
Yeah. I mean, because you couldn't do anything because everybody knew you. If you did something, your mom and daddy got it. You know, no question about it. You go 3 or 4 streets over, go way on the other side of town and do something. Boom, it's all over for you. You know.
Everybody would find out.
And that's the way it was. Like, you know, people often comment now about how close people from Albany are. Because, see, I've got friends that I've had all my life. Like, for instance, Brenda Webb. Brenda and I went to first grade together. Dr. Frederick Taylor, who just retired from Georgia State. Freddie and I went to first grade together. Sherman Jefferson, who is moved back to Georgia. Sherman and Freddie and I all grew up together. We've known each other all our lives. Melvin Webb, Brenda's husband, was like a big brother to me because his mama had a bunch of children too, and they lived not far from us, and been knowing, you know, Joanne, Carolyn, Francis, all of the Webb children. We all knew them, you know, and we all been knowing each other all our lives, and that creates a kind of a close-knitness and support system within a community that a lot of communities don't have. And see, people in the North don't have that kind of thing. They did not have that kind of thing.
unless it was transported.
Yeah, yeah. We didn't have a completely separated community because Lamar's them daddy worked at the Half of Tampa cigar place, and he drove a panel truck. And when my daddy started working for H&W Glass Company, sometime my dad would be going to work in the morning, and he would catch a ride with Lamar's daddy. So there was basic interaction. We didn't play with them every day, didn't play with them all the time, but that was basic interaction. And then a lot of us took the Albany Herald newspaper. And when the Albany Herald newspaper, when you went out there to pick up your papers, all the paper boards, black and white, picked them up at the same place. So we developed a relationship with white folks, white kids that way too. And then over on the north side of town, the black folk and white folks lived just like it is now, right close up to each other. So there were guys like James Jones and Levi Ellis and those guys like that. They had contact with white folks, and we had and we were in junior high school. We used to play football against a group of white boys over there at Tiff Park at the zoo, and we would always, and because Tommy Coleman, who grew up in Albany and I worked with when he was working with C&S Bank, Tommy Coleman and I knew each other all our lives. And a white boy named Sonny Lofton, who wound up finishing Albany State. Sonny was younger than we were, but Sonny remembered because of some of his cousins when we used to play ball out there at Tiff Park. So we had contact, and we had it was not all negative contact, but what it was like it was kind of difficult from my mom and my daddy because I think we had always had it in our minds that white folk and black folk were different, but I don't think we realized the restrictive part about it until Ty drank from that fountain and that woman flared up down there, and the idea that it was wrong to do that was a very, very hard thing for my mom to explain to us because the only difference we could see was color and texture of hair. Now I'll tell you a thing that happened to me was, and I don't remember the year, the thing that really, really happened to me that made me bitter towards white folks was the death of Emmett Till. That was one of the most well, people talk about significant emotional interaction. The life experiences are measured in terms of significant emotional interaction. But when that happened, and my dad used to take Ebony magazine, so we could basically keep our contact with the black world. And when I saw those pictures in there, and my mama had to explain to me about that, I was completely. I was just completely upset. And I became very, very bitter towards white folk. And the other thing I'll mention to you, and this is something that a lot of folks didn't do. Both my grandfathers, my daddy's daddy was a preacher, and my mother's father was a farmer. Both our grandfathers basically created the atmosphere and let everybody know that they wanted to limit their grandchildren's contact with white folks. See, we weren't actually allowed to, as little children coming up, have any relationship with white folks because both my granddads understood what the potential was for white folks to mistreat them, so they didn't want you to do that. When we went down to Mitchell County to spend summers with my granddaddy down on the farm and stuff like that, my granddaddy actually, you could see the change now that when I realized that, you could see the change in his posture and the change of the way he conducted himself when he had his grandchildren with him and taking us downtown or to Camilla or around anywhere around in the community. he didn't want us to have any contact with white folks. And I remember one time, a long time ago, everybody had heaters in the house, and we were at home, and my mama and daddy couldn't get any coal because we used to, folks used to come around on trucks and sell bags of coal. And something happened to the guy that normally delivered coal, but they would deliver coal if you called it was Chandler's Coal and Ice Company, which was also in East Albany, right there after you come on that little underpass there. And if you called and ordered coal, they would deliver it. So my mama told me to call and get the coal delivered. Well, the funny thing, and I don't know why this happened, they knew where black folks stayed and where white folks stayed. And the man said, we ain't delivering no coal out there way today. So I learned a long time ago how to talk like a white person. So I called again, and I acted like I was a white man who had this woman working for him, and she had to have some coal for her chiller, and asked him if he wouldn't get the coal out there. And the chiller pay you the money, so they got the money. They get them some coal out there so that good chiller can get warm, and sure enough, they delivered the coal. Well, my mom and dad found out about it naturally. My little brother told her. Mom and dad thought that was the funniest thing in the world. Thought that was the funniest thing in the world, and I will never forget that. But that's also is a little bit of an insight into how white folk would do things to control black folk. We used to always go out to the Arctic Bear. A bunch of us kids, and the Arctic Bear, and it was just because it had ice cream. It wasn't nothing special about it. It was just a fact of going out there, and it was on the corner of Highland and Slappy Drive. Make sure I'm right. Yeah, is that? No, that's not.
I thought it was Slappy and Oglethorpe.
That's Slappy and Oglethorpe.
I have images of it.
Yeah, that's Slappy and Oglethorpe. And we went there for years, and I tell you why we really just go there. We used to work part-time after we got to be teenage boys. On Wednesdays, you could go to Stockyard, and you'd work for, a certain amount of money for, a couple of hours when they were loading and unloading cows and pigs and stuff like that. We stopped by there and get us hot dogs and stuff and some ice cream. Well, and then we all, sometimes, we were playing with somebody who lived close to there on that side of town, we would go up there, and they had a window for black folks, so it was no problem. We had done that for years. That was accepted in Albany, and that was on the Oglethorpe Street side of it. And one time we went up there, and these white boys was up there, and they called us niggas. Well, you don't have nobody call you nigga. So we come as to mixing it up with them. And then after whoever it was that owned the Arctic Bear, I'll never get that, said there would be no more black folks served there because of this incident.
When did that take place? Was that in the 50s?
I can't even remember what year it was, because it was when we were in, I think we were in the 8th or 9th grade. I remember it was way back. It was way back then, and that was no big thing, because it didn't even stir much for us in the community. Because I think the only black folks that went to the Arctic Bear to do it was us. It was us kids, the boys who were going back and forth. Well, that was something that I remembered in my mind, because it was the first time that we had really had a fight with white boys. And some of these white boys were boys we played football with out there at Tiff Park,